In order to successfully pollinate these guys to produce seed, you will need to know the following thing. You'd obviously need to be able to identify the flower and identify the different sexual parts. So generally flowers have got a male and a female part to the bloom. This is not the rule all the time for all flowering plants. Some just have just the male parts, some have just the female parts. In the case with Sarracenia, it does actually have both parts, but some species will not allow themselves to be pollinated. Now let's take a look at an immature flower, a mature flower, and a spent flower, and then we'll get down to pollinating. So here we've got an immature flower, which is just about, it's busy developing, and it will open in due course, right? It's still all wrapped up like a little package, and the petals will drop out of this at some point. Okay, now let's take a look at a flower that is already busy opening. Now here you can actually see that this Sarracenia is already in the process of dropping its petals. These are the petals here. Okay, that's the calyx in the back, which is, you don't need to know anything about that right now. So just for really getting to understand how this flower works, because it is very different from other flowers. This one here, one of the petals is a little deformed, so there should be another one that's kind of drops out of that section. You see the underside there with, let's just, that right there. That is a part of the female part of the bloom. Okay, now let's take a look at one that is already fully open and ready to be pollinated, the ones we're going to work off of. Here we've got a flower with its petals, two in fact. There's one here and then there's one just off to my left, right there. Okay, so I've removed one of the petals just so that we could take a look into the flower and so that I can show you the pollen. Okay, so if I zoom in just a little bit, I'm going to try and hold it as still as possible. But inside that shell at the bottom of the style there, you can see all the pollen just kind of gathered, falling straight out of the anthers and into that base at the bottom there. So what you want to do is grab some with your brush and then put it onto the female parts of a different flower. I'm going to just scoop up some pollen from the inside of this bloom. Right, you can brush it into the anthers, but be careful not to go too far beyond the anthers because there is nectar in there and it will just mess up your brush. So you just want to kind of move it around a bit, get some pollen onto the tip of the brush, like so. Okay, let's just see that we've got the pollen. Just get a clear shot of this for you. Okay, so I'm going to take my brush with my little bit of pollen on it, and I'm literally just going to go in there and I'm going to touch that little tip right there. There should be another one on this side. See that there? I'm just going to go in there and I'm going to touch that part as well. Okay, so essentially what I have done is I have pollinated the Sarracenia. So if I just show you, let's peel this female bit out. So right there, that little point that you see between my fingers, that is the female bit. So you want to get the pollen brushed onto that little piece right there. Some plants will allow self-pollination, others will not. So you need to know the species and then And even if you don't, just try it and you'll soon find out. Okay, so essentially what we did was we got some pollen out from that dish right there, or from the anthers themselves. Okay, then with a little brush we place the pollen on the very tip, and there are a number of these in each flower. So there's one there, there's one behind this little shield, and then there are, let's see how many there are. So we counted 2. I see a third one right there. There's a third one, and if we go around, there's a 4th and a 5th. So essentially you should have 5 stigmas per flower. And once that has been brushed onto the flower, the pollen will actually travel. Lift the bloom up, it will travel on those lines. You can see those veins sort of coming together at the center, and it will travel up that center along that little central stalk holding the lower dish, I call it, and it will travel up in to behind that curtain of anthers, and behind that curtain of anthers is the ovaries, or are the ovaries. Come on now. So in this flower here you can actually see the ovaries, right? That's where the seed will form, on that little round ball in the middle.